evening and welcome back to it. It is a new season. We are trying to bring back a new life onto the screens. My name is Ndoro and welcome to exclusive interviews. And definitely we are doing it different, better and bigger this season. Of course, I must start off by saying shout out to the producer that's at Fadzi, because look at us. Look at where we are today. And we're going to be speaking to Sonja Madzikanda. It's going to be something to write home about, something that's full of volume. Good evening. How are you?
Hey, Erica. How are you doing, girl?
Absolutely lovely. Thank you so much for joining us on this new season, bringing a different flavor and also different value to the show.
No, thank you for even considering me,
First things first, allow me to acknowledge and also thank you for making this time out. And you look absolutely stunning.
I have you guys in the team to thank, hey? Yeah. So thank you for getting me dolled up for the interview.
The one thing that I like about you as an avid follower is that you're always going to bring yourself to the screens. So I look at you from time to time and I say, if only we could have people come through to the screens like this, like, you know what, this is who I am today, this is how I feel today, and on a different day I feel different, and also just accept what's going on. With that being said, I must start off by asking, what's the one experience that you've been through in your life that you would say shapes you as you are today, the Sonja that we have today? Primary school, doesn't have to be a bad thing, it can be good.
It can be good?
Yeah.
You know what? I'll actually say social media, funny enough, because I wasn't actually big on social media when I was in high school and in university. And then when I got married, I used to get attacked so much on social media.
Yeah.
And then I kind of had to be someone who understood social media and what I could use it to do.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, I had to become someone who was more outward, more open, and just really kind of extend myself to people, which is, I guess, what your intro was saying, that I've had to kind of come out more and be...
I think we've come to like that. We've come to love that. I speak for people at large,
I hope so, because sometimes, it's like a hit and go, because I went to like Chinese the other day, right?
Yeah.
And this elderly man who probably was like about 60-something with his family and kids were like, oh, I know you from social media. The lady who's always talking. I was like, I don't even talk that much on social media, but...
Tell me about the difference between, we do know that perception is reality.
Yeah.
So we come to take that in. Do you ever get to a point where you want to stop and correct people like, no, that's not what I meant? Or have you just come to that point where you're like, it's all right?
There's some things. I feel like if I know you personally and you say something that's wrong, I will correct you. Yeah. But if it's someone I don't know, I'm not gonna be bothered by someone I don't know. No.
Let's take it back to you being an office girly. I do know that you did your accounting stint at Ernst Young, and now we've got you going into construction rather.
Yes.
The difference there. The leap into entrepreneurship, the leaving the office, the having to speak for yourself, your product, and who you are. How's that going? What do we look forward to?
You need to remember, Erica, like when I went to uni, actually my whole kind of childhood, I was very aggressive at academics, at sports, and I was just kind of like an overachiever. And then I worked in corporate. I was more aligned to finance and accounting, and I really loved that. I loved getting up and meeting. I'm very inquisitive about the world. So a lot of people do get that right, that I am chatty and I do like world events and things like that. But then I did have to take a break when I had my kids. Everyone knows about my son's condition, and then my kids are back to back, so they're 14 months apart. So I did need to kind of give myself the break to correct my son's situation and also not neglect my daughter. So I did take a big break, but in that break, that's when I was baking and doing the kind of homely things. And then 2 years ago, I met just a different group of people who were like, why limit yourself? You can go into offices, you can be a lot more aggressive, and you can ask for things. I never would have thought that we could go to certain individuals and say, listen, we think that we can help you on this project. You have a project for maybe senior managers for a different company, give us an opportunity. I've been very fortunate that I was invited to a lot of functions where women were, and networking was really good for me, and bringing together different groups of women, and then kind of combining everyone's different skill set, and then being aggressive and venturing into construction. It was like our first time, understanding how the industry works, and it's obviously a very male-dominated industry, but we've had projects that, have been very difficult. But, for me, it was exciting because after my son kind of got better, I'd missed myself. and missed being aggressive and missed kind of venturing into self-discovery. So construction was just like a nice introduction to kind of self again.
kind of preempted into my next question, but doesn't completely seal it off. Now, what I do totally understand is that real estate and construction, such a broad space to be in, and like you did say, male dominated. Now, I must ask you, moving toward that, what are you planning to do to make sure that, you know, other women come in and they don't find it such a stiff place to be in? Because it even sounds strange right now to say I'm a female and I'm in construction. We're like, okay.
You think saying I'm a female in construction sounds strange, but being a female in anything sounds strange to men. I'll just take a little bit of a detour. I was at a function recently, and I introduced that I'm a farmer to a group of men, and they were like, "You're a woman and you're a farmer?" And I was like, "Well, men were hunters and women were gatherers. So when they were gathering fruits and like tobacco, right? So they were farming, right?"
True that.
So what tends to happen is you get put into a lot of environments where people see how you dress or maybe how you present yourself or how you speak. And women, we tend to be softer. We tend to be more understanding and team orientated, right? Yeah. And men kind of don't know if they can really trust you to deliver. So one of our projects was in a different town. And I mean, the individual involved was really like, "Can you guys handle that? Like, will your husbands and your family setup allow you to do that?" And they were shocked when we were on site doing what we needed to do when we were doing it, you know? So I think you have to encourage other women through networking events, come together and deliver, you know, whatever you put your name forward to. Follow through. And I think that is going to help more women come into the industry and will make it easier for everyone else, I think.
I think just listening to you, I'd like to speak for the ones at home as well and say, we are just getting to grip now the Sonja that we see on social media and exactly.
But I don't post everything on social media.
You shouldn't post everything on social media. You know these people and how they come. You shouldn't post everything on social media. We're definitely going to get into your parenting, which I think is just immaculate. I watch you sometimes and I'm thinking, maybe I
hope my kids feel that way.
I'm sure they do feel that way. We do have a lot to catch up with. It is exclusive interviews talking here to Sonja Madzikanda. We got a lot just to get into exclusively. Please do not go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back to it. It is exclusive interviews. And now this evening we are talking to Sonja Madzikanda and we're really just getting exclusive. Consider us the fly on the wall in her house. And that's exactly where we're getting to now. We're getting into your life and into your house. I do know as a mom, it's a different character. It's a different life. We close the doors and we become real people. Now, you've also just made a lot of women feel so strong.
Thank you.
When you advocate for autism, it's something that I've seen other moms battle more than the children.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you could just maybe start off with how beautiful it is for you to be a mom and just how you've managed to just handle yourself. I know John is an intelligent boy. Sure. He's handling well, but how do you handle?
You know what it is? I think when I first got my son's diagnosis, I was in a lot of denial. And I was also in an environment where things weren't really good for me. Obviously, you know, the marriage was marriaging. And then I had to make a conscious decision to shut down and focus on my son. And I remember telling myself that if I don't do this now and get this right now, I'm never going to get a chance like this ever again in my life to help correct my son. So I just immersed myself. I always say, like, I took out 2 years of my life to literally just be like, I need to understand what this is. I need to try each and everything that everyone says I need to try. And I did that. There isn't anything I didn't throw my son into. But in doing that, for that period, I did have to just shut down. I don't want to lie to parents and say, you know, I was able to balance it all at the same time. I wasn't. I mean, there was a time when I stopped going to functions. I, was changing schools. I was having to meet up with people who ordinarily we would have not had anything in common. But I just really had to let down my walls and just say, this is where I'm at in life and this is what I have to do. Yeah.
Can we speak about the part where you said you were in denial, of which I feel like a lot of people stay there, don't leave, then they end up punishing their children for keeping them there. How did you leave, and at what point did you say to yourself, Sonja, you're in denial, snap out of it, maybe so that someone at home can snap?
My sister said something. I'm from family of 4 girls. My older sister, she just said, this condition is more in your head than your child's head. So you don't want to make your child feel less than, because if you feel embarrassed, he doesn't know there's anything wrong with him. So it's actually a you thing. And then I remember thinking to myself, I had dreams of the schools and everything I wanted my firstborn son to go to. And then I actually had to just go through the mental process of saying, okay, so if he doesn't go to that school, and then what? If he doesn't do his O levels, and then what? Does that make him less than? Because when you get your diagnosis, you don't know how far bad it's going to be or how far good. You know, and I'm really one of the luckier versions of people. But I always say it's because I started early. And I stayed diligent for 2 solid years. And I prayed there isn't anything I didn't try. And I always try and encourage parents that there's nothing I didn't try. You know, so all I can say is if you keep your mind in one place and sacrifice sometimes, but get back to it, your kids, I think, really benefit from that. You know, but now that my son is, where he is, now I can focus on myself and do that, not feeling any guilt or shame. And what do you really get from denial? You know?
True. I think that if I'm to speak for the larger population that does know you or watch you from what you give us, I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of. You should be proud. I've seen so many people, especially on Facebook, talk about how I've got a sister of mine actually who's so encouraged by everything that you do. So there's no reason for you to move toward that. If anything, we sit on platforms like this and we own that. And I'm thank grateful. You so much for that. I'm
so grateful.
Then you've got a beautiful daughter. Then that makes you busy, and there's a busy life, and you're always traveling, and here you are trying to get your career now on foot. You've got to cook, you've got to listen, you've got to say bedtime stories, you've got to do your hair. Just give us a rough 24 hours in your life as a mom.
Okay. So my alarm typically goes off at about 6:15
in the morning,
and I snooze it for about 20.
Don't we all?
I go, I make sure my kids have bathed. I'm usually we just get out just in time so that no one's really late to school. We try to leave around 7. I drop my son off, and then I drop my daughter off. Then I gym. So gymming for me is me time with my trainer. I don't trim around people. It's us playing music that I like. And after gymming, I shower. If I'm eating those days, then I eat something in the morning. If I'm trying to lose weight, then I'll try have one meal later on. I either go to the farm, I look for friends, I socialize. I don't have to cook dinner anymore because I live by myself with my kids. So the nanny will cook, or sometimes I'll cook with my kids. And then we do evening bath, bedtime story, and then I retire to the bedroom all by myself.
That sounds like 48 hours in 24. So
but I wouldn't change anything, funny enough. You know, I've got a lot of peace in my life right now. And those small things give me a lot of peace. Let me
take out something from your gym time. You posted recently and you spoke about how people don't really accept it when you post. I've always had problems with that. If I'm by the beach, I'm going to post it.
Exactly.
You want me to wear down? So I was quite seconding that. I'm like, it's place appropriate. But what's your take in general? Putting your weight on the internet, now you look fabulous.
Thank you.
Were you really confident that the journey was going to work out well? Because the other side of the internet, they were not going to take it well if that didn't work. What confidence booster were you using? Maybe that's my question.
But I realized it's only when I lost weight when I realized how fat I was. You know that? I was fat posting anyway. That's what I told myself. I was fat posting anyway. And then also I needed to change, because when I left my marriage, I had a lot of shock in my body. So a lot of people don't know that a lot of traumatic instances in your life, your body stores a lot of cortisol, stress, and all that stuff. So I needed to physically get into a routine where whether the weight loss was actually secondary. The primary was really kind of focusing on myself, my body, and being able to go 10 rounds. So a lot of people follow me, always say that your body must be able to take you through 10 rounds in a boxing match. That's what your body needs to be able to do. And then, when the weight started, falling, I was actually like, but I look nice, and then now I want to maintain it. And I want to, it's also, I think, very important for women who are starting a new chapter in their life. Lose the weight, look good, feel good, because you present yourself more lighter and positive and more just open to people who you then meet. So it's part and parcel, I think.
You sound to me like someone who reached an epiphany and decided not to keep it to yourself, which is something that has benefited a lot of people who watch you, which is a good thing. And often you hear people say, what would you say to a younger self? But I've got a different question for you. What would you say to the younger version of your mom about you? Or what would you say to your mom if you were to meet her in a different life?
I think the exciting thing about my journey is my mom's very traditional, right?
Yeah.
So she's one of those, we're going to stay and hold the fort until it breaks, you know? But I see that she's also changed throughout my journey, which has actually been quite interesting. I never would have thought, you know, I'd be able to be like my mom, and I'd be like, you're right, yeah. You know what I mean? Never.
Yeah.
But what I can say for, let's say, a girl who's maybe younger than me, maybe going through something similar, or the younger version of my mom, is that life, it's both qualitative and quantitative, you know? So what I mean by that is maybe someone would say like, oh, do you regret what you did? You know, and it seems like a simple yes or no question.
Yeah.
But then when I say it's quantitative, I mean, I had to step out of my situation and say, okay, 6 out of 33 years of life, you know, I could live up to 80. My granny lived up to 100.
Yeah.
So what's 6 over 100?
Don't let it control the rest. I like
you know.
Yeah.
So I try be, when I can't be emotional or qualitative, I really try be quantitative, because sometimes numbers are just easier to understand. Maybe it's also my background. But I think you should just take it easy. If something is working, it's working. If something's not working, it's not working.
Yeah.
And also, I think my son's condition contributed, because, you know, when I was going through autism, that's when you appreciate how fragile and yet powerful the mind is. So when you're in a situation where now that's at risk, you have to say to yourself, well, if I lose my mind, how do I know someone's going to help me get it back? Like,
That's true.
I didn't know my son was going to get better. You know, it was by the grace of God. So.
If I'm to use a quote to describe you in the couple of minutes that I've actually gotten to speak to you, I would use Sun Tzu's The Art of War.
Okay.
Is to master your emotions, and you can win any battle. You give me that vibe. We're talking here to Sonja Madzikanda, but we'll be right back. It is exclusive interviews. Welcome back to It Is Exclusive Interviews right here on ZTN Prime. Now listen, we've delved into Sonja's life, really and truly, and I'm absolutely enjoying it, because we're taking a couple of nuggets from it. And we ought to understand, from time and time again, we get onto the internet, and there are days where I'm like, "I guys, no man." Again, the headline reads, Wicknell's wife. You know, and it's like, I think it's been over a year now, and I can't even remember what I was doing last year.
Exactly.
I'm not the same person I was last year.
Exactly.
How is it like for you? How do you handle the urge to respond, the urge to type and block?
I think
Take us through it all.
I think what happens is you also have to really acknowledge what social media is there for. So social media, you know, it serves a social and economic and political role, right? So some people use it for different things.
Yeah.
For me personally, as I said, I only reply when I feel like it's really personal and coming from someone who I feel it's worth responding to. But I'm aware of the fact that people want the dramatized version of this public separation and all of this stuff. But I can say from the bottom of my heart, I don't harbor, I guess, the anger and the bitterness and the whatever it is that people want me to feel towards Wicknell.
Yeah.
That's the truth. I don't have any bad feelings towards him. I've really been intentional about my past year.
Yeah.
You know, so when I see these headlines and stuff, I just know, okay, it's social media being social media. Some of the things are paid for. I know people are trying to push their agendas and things like that. As I said, it's social, economic, and it's political, right? Some people do this because, heck, my views are low. So why not talk about Sonja?
Yeah.
Some people do it because they're trying to destroy or push whatever their agendas are. So I try be, you know, analytical to be like, okay, what is this, and is it really saying anything or meaning anything? And then also, I'm really lucky that a lot of people have said a lot of things about me. You're really lucky. Yes, that a lot of people have said a lot of terrible things about me. Say more into that. So all I'm trying to say is I've been labeled and said to be so many things. Yeah. So the people who like that about me are going to like that about me. The people who don't want anything to do with me don't want anything to do with me. You know what I mean? So what I will also say, the other problem with social media is a lot of people use it to bring people down, but you actually catapult people to platforms that they could never have made it by themselves. I mean, I'm sure now everybody knows my face, my name, my story, you know. I in my phone, I'm always just like, who are you? Well, how did you get my number? You know, so sometimes when people are doing these things, they think they're really destroying you. But I always go back to the adage of the frog that was dropped into the cream. and then started swimming round and round and round, and then ended up whipping the cream. So it got out of the bowl.
Is that the English version of kukika dachka kuriambutsa? I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you said it yourself. They propel numbers towards you.
They do.
And I know that you are writing a book. I stand to be
Yes.
corrected, maybe finished, and also working on a podcast. Now,
Yes.
we've got the space. We're here now. Let's
Yes.
talk about it. What's happening on the podcast?
So-
What do we expect?
The podcast is gonna be different. A lot of people are kind of used to me always talking about like domestic issues
Yeah.
or like social issues, which is also why I really wanted to do this interview.
Yeah.
I want the grace of saying my divorce is now over a year old.
Yeah.
And it's not really part of my brand now. So the podcast is going to be a lot more interesting and intriguing stuff. I've been offered a lot of opportunities, you know, in defending myself, which some people might have said was maybe I shouldn't have said that or should have kept quiet. There are people who in those kind of outbursts have seen intellect and ability to articulate myself. So you'd be shocked by some of the opportunities I've been offered.
Yeah.
You know, so that podcast is going to spotlight some of those different areas of myself, the more commercial, the more worldly, you know, inquisitive side to myself. The book is definitely going to be a book of healing. I really fear that a lot of Zimbabweans don't care about their mental health. I do
When
fear.
you say the book is going to be about healing, are you going to, or are you writing rather from your heart or from your mind? I ask
It's a
because,
combination.
Okay.
And why I say it's a combination is there are parts of it that are abstract, because I think some things that you go through, you can't actually verbalize.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
So sometimes you need something a bit graphic to really solidify that. And why I say that is growing up, I studied literature.
Yeah.
So there's a book I read about a woman who she was in a terrible abusive marriage and she was locked up in the attic. So she used to scribble on the walls. She used to scribble drawings of people. And that's how she used to actually express herself. Right? But in doing that, she ended up trapping herself in the room, and for her, she ended up staying in the room because that's now where she was comfortable. So all these people on the walls, all these scribes on the wall, this has now become my world, because outside I'm a crazy wife, the husband's abusive, this, that. And to actually mentally heal herself, all she needed to do was actually open the door and get out
outside,
of the attic. You know, so some things are so small and symbolic. So I really hope that the abstract and the healing part really does help and reach women. I think we really need to focus on our minds.
Yeah.
It's a lot of us are really struggling there.
Listen, I always tell myself on a bad day that what you give power to has power over you. So it's well within that boxed thought. And whilst we're there, I want to know the one thing that you tell yourself. There are days where you can't even comb the hair. You must surely tell yourself something, and maybe we can tap into that thinking, that space, that saying. Some have so long life.
Do you know what? It sounds really cliche and really average, but I really believe the words that you only have one life.
Yeah.
You know, and it sounds so simple, but I think when you've been on the brink of so many things, like, you know, I met this guy in the gym once. He'd had a terrible accident and pretty much had been written off as paralyzed. So he was just trying to motivate me in the gym because I was being lazy. And he was like, I used to be in a wheelchair and I was paralyzed, but I could hear my relatives talk about me, but they didn't know I could hear
them.
And he said, and when I heard what they said about me, I was like, I need to get out of this bed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this guy was like maybe in his 60s, but he used to go so hard in the gym because he was like, now I appreciate my physical aptitude and now I know what my body can do.
Yeah.
So every day I'm going to work on it, nourish it, feed it, and appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I look at it and I say, you know, there are people who've not made it. The people who've died, the people who've lost their mind, you know, all because of one or small things that you just can't step out of or abandon. So, I mean, when I say you only have one life, you know, don't give up on yourself. Try multiple times. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, you know.
We're not here long enough to live unhappy. There's also got to be a favorite song. There's also got to be a
Right
get up
now?
song. Yeah, it's got to be right now. They change over time.
Ooh, I'm really ratchet, eh? So I listen to ratchet music.
Bring it on. Give it to us.
I like Glorilla. Glorilla.
Okay.
So she's got this song that she features on that says, I like bad women too. And what she's pretty much saying is, if you see my man out in the club and he's cheating on me,
oh, I get it.
Call me, because I like beautiful women too.
I like it. I get it too. I thought you meant like, so why would we blame him? Because I also like, okay.
Call me out. I like beautiful women too.
I like that.
So
listen, this has been so edifying.
Thank you.
And I did ask you to speak to maybe a younger version of your mom or yourself. So we'll take that. We'll take those nuggets as what would come from your heart if you were to bump into someone.
Yeah.
I don't like calling them closing statements, because I'd love for the conversations to continue. But for the sake of this show, what would you say for us to remember you the next time we bump into you, the next time we see you on the internet?
That's a nice question. I think what I will say is, I've done some things right.
Yeah.
I've done some things wrong. I've tried to be myself. And I just hope that going forward, people allow me and give me the grace to show all the other aspects of my life and myself. And I really hope that there are more women who join in on that bandwagon of just celebrating ourselves, encouraging ourselves, and just being a beacon of light.
Yeah.
I'm very big on love and light, and I'm going to continue to do that.
Yeah.
That's it.
Continue to work on your salvation.
Thank you.
Listen, we definitely like that. I came across something on the internet recently, and kind of resonates with what you're being asked to hear today. The hardest thing to do in life is to be yourself. It is it's very hard. So well done in doing that, and hope to catch up with you in and around the streets. All the best with your podcast, the book, and the construction business. Like I said, we hope to see you back here once again.
Thank you, Erica.
Here she pioneered the first episode of this season, exclusive interviews, and I do hope that you took a lot from that, took a lot of nuggets away from this conversation. It's always love and light from us here on exclusive interviews. Back to you. My name is Erica Ndoro. We'll catch up on the next episode.